The new Prehistoric Planet Pack for Oxygen Not Included added a few new critters to the game. They may want a ranch. Today we're building a Lumb ranch. Lumb are unaggressive little dino friends that feed on the new Ovagro fig and poop out peat. They can also eat bristleberry and bog jelly, but the most ready source of food for them will be the Ovagro fig. It takes 1,300 kilocalories of food per cycle to keep your new pet happy, and they'll reward you with 200 kilograms of peat poop. They can also be butchered for 12 kilograms of tough meat, which is inedible but can be fed to the new Rex critters. Or cooked into tender brisket in the new smoker, which is edible. 6 kilograms of meat cooks into 16,000 kilocalories of brisket, so each lumb will net you 32,000 kilocalories. Temperature should be easy to manage since the lumb are hardy critters and can survive at temperatures from minus 100 degrees Celsius to positive 100 degrees Celsius. They prefer to be warm though, and their comfort range is between 20 degrees Celsius and 70. To house your new dinos, you'll need a space that's at least 16 cells or larger, or they'll feel confined. And you'll need at least 16 cells per critter in the ranch, or they'll feel crowded. That includes critters of other types that might be in there with them, such as the new Mimica. Lumb has the ability to harvest their own food directly from the plant, which can save valuable time and effort for your duplicates, but note that they can only harvest food within the 2x2 area that they occupy, so you'll need to bear that in mind when planning for their food. The lumb can hop up or down one tile, but won't hop over gaps, and since they occupy 2 spaces on the floor, they won't jump up or down onto a single tile. This could be useful for keeping them contained, but if you want them to move around, you'll need to make sure to give them sufficient space. While they'll walk across a closed pneumatic door, they won't jump up or down onto one, though they will jump onto other door types. For our ranch build today, we're going to plan to feed the lumb with Ovagro, a new plant that can be found in the new starting area of the new planetoid in the DLC. Ovagro take a long time to grow and stretches out some huge vines that produce the figs. They'll grow 12 lines to the left and right of the central Ovagro node if there's enough room. These vines can grow along floors, climb up or down walls, and even grow across the ceiling. They'll also grow along doors, both open and closed. You'll need to feed them 90 kilograms of water per cycle, regardless of how many vines it's grown, and they'll need to be in oxygen, CO2, or polluted oxygen in the 25 degree to 45 degrees Celsius range. Each fully grown plant will provide 2,600 kilocalories per cycle, or enough to support 2 lumb. You want to start growing these in your ranch well before you tame your first lumb though, since it takes 3 cycles for each vine to grow, or 36 cycles to fully grow. You can shorten the growth time using Mimica and by using the farm station, but it's still a good idea to get a head start before your first tame. When it comes to building a lumb ranch, there isn't only just one right design, so I've been experimenting with a few different things in the sandbox world to try to come up with the one that I want to use most in my own colonies. Probably the easiest option you can go with when building out your ranch is just to have a really wide room. This particular room is 90 tiles wide. You can max out at 96 for the ranch. So this will give you enough room to have your 2 lumb in there. It's maybe not the best use of space, but it's easy to do. Just throw your Ovagro node in the center, let it expand out to the full width on both sides. Have a couple Mimica in here to help speed up the process. You've got your grooming station and a drop-off point. Really straightforward, not hard to set up, just maybe a little space consuming. Aside from the space that this wide room occupies, it's also a little bit more challenging to get enough auto sweepers in here because you just really have to use a lot of them in order to cover the size of the room. It takes basically 4 in order to cover the width in order to ensure that you can sweep up everything the lumps might be dumping on the ground. You can take up a little less space if you went something like this, where you're actually been taking advantage of the way that the Ovagro will climb walls and climb along the ceiling. The challenge with this one is because the lumb will only harvest in the 2x2 square they occupy, all of the Ovagro figs that grow in this little top area up here are out of reach. Now, if you have some Mimica in here speeding up the growth process, that probably won't matter. You can offset the loss of food by just increasing the growth speed of the figs in the other parts of the vine. But it's not really set up for automation, in that if you try to put in an auto sweeper in here, you can't really place it in a way that's going to let you sweep up anything that might be on the floor very effectively. But as a basic design, this would certainly work. You can also shorten the size of the room that's needed by just staggering the way the floor is laid out. Every time the Ovagro mine makes a turn on one of these open corners, you get a little bit of extra growth, and so that lets you shorten the width of the room that you have to use. You do have to have at least 2 spaces here, both so that the Lumb can move through the area, but then also in order to give room for the vine to turn. With this layout, the auto sweepers can get pretty good coverage on the area where all the Ovagro is, but there are a couple spots where you might not have enough room. You might need to put in an extra auto sweeper, or just accept that you're going to have some areas that the duplicates might have to manually sweep up. Size of this room inside is 78 tiles, so that gives enough room for 2 Lumb and 2 Mimica to be in here without anything being crowded. I also tried looking at a setup where we actually don't take advantage of the fact that the Lumb will automatically harvest their own food, and you can grow your Ovagro above the ranch area and just have the duplicates harvest it, let it drop into the lower space where the Lumb can pick it up and eat it at their will. I left a little layer of CO2 at the bottom of the ranch here to help try to keep these things from going bad. The layer of CO2 at the bottom will sometimes say it's in a sterile environment and will reduce the rate at which it rots, but it's still not perfect. Again, we have the auto sweepers in here just to pick up the peat that gets dropped, as well as any of the Ovagro food that happen to rot, because you have to turn off the collection of the figs in order to use this method. This lets you use the top area as a farm space, so I could put a farm station in here to speed up growth, but they would spend a lot of time with the number of vines that are in here. And this isn't maximized right now, but you can fit 6 Lumb in a ranch of 96 tiles, so if you just had a 96 tile square down here, and then 3 fully grown Ovagro nodes with 12 extensions down each side would be enough to feed all of those Lumb in one place. But it's a lot more work for the duplicates to run around and harvest all of these, so maybe not ideal for what I want to use. Let's build out the ranch that I do want to use. And this design is heavily influenced by some other ones that I've seen online, so this is not a completely unique design to me. I did optimize it a bit for how I want it to work, but just know that this isn't entirely my idea. We're going to start off first by throwing in a few tiles here at the beginning that we're going to have for our doorway. So I want a space that's 4 tiles wide at the beginning. I'm going to throw an airflow tile down here. We'll put our pneumatic door on top of that. And then I'm going to use a couple of airflow tiles above that as well. I'm also going to throw one little airflow tile just inside the door here that we'll make use of once we get most of the ranch built out. To one of these 4 tiles, I'm going to throw down a farm tile that's 1 step lower. With another tile beside it. Actually, we'll use an airflow tile just so we can let the air in and out. Then I'm going to need 6 tiles to the right of that. Next to that, I'm going to throw in a hydroponic farm tile. Now, you can use a regular farm tile here if you don't have the hydroponic tiles unlocked, but it's just easier and reduces the duplicate effort if you use a hydroponic tile. And we'll need another 7 tiles beside that. On top of that 7th tile, we're going to throw 1 little block, and I'm going to put a pneumatic door over here as well. And I want a spot that I can have some extra Mimica growing, so I'm going to throw just a little farm tile down here to have some growth for some Mimica. And that needs to be sealed off into its own part of the room as well. Now, this isn't necessarily the most optimal from a total space situation, but I really like the layout and the fact that it's going to be stackable at the end. I'm going to have an area inside that's actually 5 tiles high. Normally, when I build my rooms in Oxygen Not Included, I usually have them only 4 tiles, but it works out well for this design. In this, we're going to plant the Ovagro node, of course. Then we're going to plant 2 Mimica in the 2 different farm tiles, so we have those ready to grow. This needs to be connected up by a plumbing pipe, of course. I already have a water set up, so I'm just going to connect into that. Now we're going to take advantage of the fact that the Ovagro will grow on walls and on ceilings, and also will climb on doors to try to limit the amount of space the Ovagro needs to grow within this room. But also ensure that we keep the entire space available as a single room as well. So all these doors, if they sealed off the area, would create their own unique space here, but we leave a little gap in the middle just above the Ovagro node so that we can keep it as part of the same room. I'm just going to close off the room here. I'm going to put a little jog down here that's 2 tiles, not because I necessarily need to, but just because I have the bottom floor dropping down over here. And so if I'm going to stack these designs, this is what the top of the one below would look like. Just to show that we can still get the layout that we want and allow for the shipping options to use the auto sweeper to clean things up. So inside of this little area with the doors, we're going to have the Ovagro vine grow along the floor, up the end door, and across the top, and it will end growing right here. That's where the 12th vine will be. We do need a gap here, as I said, so that we can make sure that we've got that all counting as a singular room. We'll set all the doors to open once the duplicates wake up for their little nap. And that will let the Mimica fly around in here and do all the fertilizing we want. The reason I put the little jog on the floor down here is because inside of the room, the open pneumatic door doesn't count as part of the stable. And so as the Lumb paths through it, if you have to try to put your grooming station on the outside of that doorway, the Lumb will find that it's not inside the ranch anymore. There's a chance that it will lose its pathing to the grooming station and not get properly grouped. So what'll happen here is the Lumb instead will get to the edge of this floor. Instead of passing through the door, they'll jump down to these bottom tiles. And they only really seem to pay attention to the bottom 2 squares of the Lumb to determine what space they're in. So that'll let it skip past the door without having that problem. I'm gonna put a critter drop off just inside the door. And set that, of course, for the Lumb and the Lumblet. Now, the Lumb actually needs 2 squares in order to stand on, but when you drop it off, it'll occupy this little space, and then it'll jump down off of it, and it'll never return back up to this area here because there's only 1 tile, so it's kind of a neat way to drop them in. Limit the amount of space that the Lumb will move inside the room, but still let you make use of the full area. You have the auto sweeper unlocked and a duplicate that can set it up for you. We can place that inside the ranch as well. I want to set it so that the left edge of the box comes just before the drop-off point. And then on the opposite side, we're going to set it up so it overlaps all the way over to the edge of that door so that we have an overlapping point in between the 2 right in this tile right here. And so in that space, we can throw our conveyor loader. This conveyor I want to set for consumable ore for Pete. And probably critter eggs, too. We'll get those pulled out also. Now, at this point, you can throw it in your grooming station, and that will turn this space into a ranch, and then you've got your properly sized ranch, 82 tiles. Again, it's good for 2 Lumb and 2 Mimica to be flying around in here without being crowded. However, the Ovagro takes a really long time to grow. So I'd recommend, before you actually get your Lumb in here, to set in a farming station instead. It's all the same requirements to be a greenhouse, but then you can take advantage of the farming station if you have a duplicate that has the ability to use it to speed up the growth of your Ovagro. They'll fertilize the vines, increasing the growth by 100%, so we can speed up and dramatically cut down to the amount of time it takes the Ovagro to grow. In addition to the Mimica, because the Mimica will actually stack with the farmer's touch. Once the vine is fully grown, you can just replace your farm station with a grooming station, and now you have a fully completed Lumb farm. They'll self-harvest automatically to get the food they need. They can reach all the vine that's growing on both the doors above and the floor below, so your duplicates won't have to go and harvest all those. You're going to want to make sure you set this for no harvest. Otherwise, the duplicates will come in and steal the Ovagro fig. And what we want those is to feed the Lumb instead. Now with the Mimica in here, the Ovagro figs are actually grow a little bit faster, so we're actually overproducing what we need for 2 Lumb. It's a little bit hard to manage the exact quantity you take out of here and make sure they stay fed. And I'm willing to accept a little bit of waste just to make sure that the duplicates don't have to do more work. With this setup, your Lumb should be perfectly happy. That'll increase their metabolism, which of course increases their reproduction rate. That'll give us a supply of eggs we can get out of this. As we hatch smaller little Lumblets, we can sacrifice some of these Lumb for meat. And if I needed to, I could come in here and just steal the figs if I was desperate for food as well. Hope you can make use of this ranch set up your own colony. It helps keep your duplicates fed. I'm as always CrypticFox. See all of you next time.